Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations. Knowing the skills of your team is obviously so important for running your business. And Micah, what you and your team came up with in building a skills tracker, I think was just brilliant.
Why, thank you.
But it has been so useful in knowing what the skill level is for particular things that we do at our company. So will you tell our people what a skills tracker is that y'all built?
Yes. So the second that we hire a new person on our team, when they're onboarding, we send them a survey. And the survey goes through all the different technology that we use, all the different platforms that we use, that our clients use. Things like Make, Zapier, the project management tools like Asana, ClickUp, and Monday, anything like that. HubSpot, the CRMs like Pipedrive or Salesforce, Go High Level, different things like that. So they get to answer, are they zero skilled at that? Are they beginner? Are they intermediate? Or are they experts? And what that does when they fill out that survey, it goes into a single list inside of ClickUp that is shown in a table view, and then we color-coded those answers. So essentially, it provides our project manager all the answers that they need to determine who should do this. So let me take a step back. That's what a skill tracker is. The reason that we built it is because we would get a client request, and then the project manager would ask me the question, well, who should this go to? Well, I don't want to answer that question all the time. So we created this tool that was essentially answering that question, but in a very simple visual format. So now the project manager or any project manager on our team can literally go to the skills tracker dashboard and say, oh, we have a client request that involves HubSpot and ClickUp. Cool. Who on our team are experts at that?
Yeah.
And then she can go back and say, all right, if those are the experts, do they have time? What's their capacity look like? And that's another topic, but it answers the question of who can do this work. Before we had this, we were just kind of like, ooh, I don't know, can this person do it? Or what about this? Or I get asked that question over and over again.
Well, and it's honestly impossible. After you've hired multiple people, and even just with one, it's impossible for you to memorize their level of expertise on all the platforms that you manage within a company or that you need to be an expert in or have some knowledge in. Like, you just can't keep that in your brain, and nobody should be responsible for that.
Yeah, documenting it has been a lifesaver. It also helps us identify where do we need to hire next.
Oh,
so
yes.
As we go high level, we gained popularity within the last few years. Well, we had the skill tracker. So if we were getting more requests for that, we could see, we've got a deficit in this skill. We don't have to ask everybody on the team and interrupt their day. They're busy doing billable projects. I don't want to interrupt them. I just go to the skills tracker and say, okay, we have a deficit in this. When we hire next, let's put this in the job requirements so that we can strengthen that and start taking on more go high level jobs.
And it isn't about knowing what is, like you mentioned, a survey at the beginning when we hired them. As a business owner, you don't need to know every future thing you might get asked.
No.
You just need, okay, for right now, what is it that you do? What do you think you might need some expertise on going in the future? This is something that can evolve. And you can then, if you get, let's just use Go High Level as an example, that might not have been early on in our company because it wasn't big yet. It wasn't something that people needed.
Yep.
And as requests started coming in, okay, well, this is something we need to add to our skills tracker. We can go ahead and survey our current team, see if anybody has experience, add that to our skills tracker. You don't have to think of everything at the very beginning. You can continue to evolve it.
Yeah, we've added some and we've taken some off.
Oh, yeah.
And when I say survey, I really just mean a form.
Right.
And because this is all in ClickUp, we actually just use a ClickUp form. So we don't even have any automation. It's literally a ClickUp form for the skills tracker list. And as soon as that's filled out, it populates the table view with the color-coded options, and we're good to go.
Yeah, and I think it's important to also clarify, because you're not sending every single person this that we hire at our company. An HR person is not going to get this survey of skills tracker. Not specific to this,
Yeah, if you're an agency or a B2B company, this is going to be your fulfillment team, this is going to be your creative team, this is going to be your production team, your contractors, writers, copywriters, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I was thinking about an ad agency, because we used to do a lot of social media ads with our previous company. And, do they have Facebook and Instagram experience, knowledge? Do they have Twitter ads? Now we could add Twitter, TikTok ads to it, Pinterest ads, like those kind of things, to where you want to build out who are the production members on your team that are going to be fulfilling these things. That's the kind of people we're talking about surveying. And each team might be different.
Yes.
That you're hiring for.
Yep. And if you did, it would just be as simple as creating separate lists with separate forms, and you're done.
Exactly. So how have you found they're self-assessing?
Yes.
That they might...
I think I know where you're going with this question.
So what happens when you have someone think that they're an expert, but they really are intermediate or below?
Well, you find out really quickly.
Okay.
And this was a big worry of mine up front. But what we did to mitigate this was at the form or the survey, we describe if you mark like we define beginner, intermediate, expert, and why we're asking this, so it gives them context. Because you're not going to say, or most people aren't going to say, I'm an expert, and then expect to get work in that category and then fail. Right? Nobody really wants to set themselves up for failure. So we found that as long as we give them enough information to understand why we're asking and what this is for and what the consequences, positive and negative, are if you answer expert or intermediate, you are likely going to get work for these platforms. But then we also support the training side of it. So if you want to learn more, like we have people that come on board that are great at Zapier, but haven't tried Make yet. And so then we can help coach them. They might start as a beginner as Make, but then we help train and coach them on Make. And as they're progressing in their skill set, they're going in and updating their skills tracker because they feel confident, they've graduated to the next level, and then now we can start giving them intermediate work. We can start giving them expert work in Make.
I mean, and that's happened so many times.
Yes.
Where they come in with a low level expertise on something, and because a lot of the systems, when we're working with clients, we're working with a number of different platforms. And so you might be really strong at Make with ClickUp and something else. And we might need to work with you on getting stronger at one of the pieces. So by default, you're going to get more skilled. But that's something that we can see up front. Well, they already meet 4 out of the 5 pieces of this workflow. This is a great person, and we can fill in the rest and they can learn.
Yep. And it helps us pair too, because sometimes we'll take an expert who may not have enough capacity and an intermediate level person to get the job done. And then that intermediate person is also learning from the expert, kind of like pair programming in a development situation. I mean, what we do isn't far from development. But to kind of answer your question a second ago, let's say they do answer, they over-calculated, or were a little overconfident in their skill set. We used to get this a lot with our last business. We'd ask people if they were experts in Excel. Oh yeah, totally experts in Excel. I can do everything. Or experts in Asana was a common one too.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And we come to find out they don't even know how to use formulas in Excel. They just know how to input data into a spreadsheet. And Asana was the same way. I'm an expert. I can make a to-do list. And that was it. And so when we do run into those situations, because a lot of times people don't know what they don't know, and then they think they have overconfidence or too much confidence about, oh, I'm an expert, not even knowing they're only 30% of the platform instead of 100% or 80%. And When we run into that, it's so immediately apparent that it's very easy to remedy.
To make adjustments.
Yes, absolutely. And then we go back in and we manually adjust that so that we know from our skills tracker perspective, okay, we've got some learning to do.
Right.
But it's not a negative thing.
Yeah. Well, and let me also say too, because when we hire somebody, we already know that they're skilled in specific things.
Yes.
Because of we have a 3-part interview process where they have to do a build, they have to record it, and then in the next interview, we ask them questions about it. So we already know that they are experts in some of the systems.
Yes, and the core things we're hiring for.
Yes,
for sure.
for the things that we're hiring for. And so the skills tracker helps us catch all the things that we weren't specifically hiring for, because there's no way to do an interview process that's reasonable with somebody to test them on 20 different things. Like, that's just rude.
Yeah.
And that would make the interview process way too long.
Yes.
And so in our interview process, we know for a fact that they are skilled in specific ones that we are looking to hire for. The skills tracker helps us catch everything else so that we know where they can also fill in.
Yeah, we're often pleasantly surprised because, I mean, I can think of a few occasions where we hired somebody and then they put expert on things like, I don't know, HubSpot or Salesforce. And I'm like, oh, man, that is going to be handy.
Yeah.
When we were hiring them, we were focused on, say Monday and Make. Mm-hmm. And now we've got this resource that could do other things outside of that. And it's kind of like this added bonus, like you're saying, like, oh, okay, cool. And if we wouldn't have had this in place, or when we didn't have this in place, those people went underutilized.
Absolutely.
We had no idea.
Well, and when you're thinking about as a agency or B2B company, you want to be able to offer services to them that are in line with what your company does.
Usually, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to say, oh, well, we can't do that. They need to go somewhere else. If it's in the scope of what you do. Yes. I'm not saying, outside of that scope. But if you
We also crochet. Yeah.
We have a team member that's an expert in that. Yeah. We can embroider your shirts for you. Is that, if you're doing social, I like to go back to social media ads. Like, we did so many. You don't want to say, oh, well, we do Facebook and Instagram, but we don't do Twitter and Pinterest. Like, you're a social media ad agency. You want to be able to offer the platforms where your clients are on. And so that's where the skills tracker, we're not trying to catch anything out of our scope of work, but you're able to better support your clients when you know what skill sets your employees have.
Yeah, this is a perfect example. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think maybe in one of our upcoming episodes, I think this is an interesting anomaly. When we find people that are experts at things, we immediately want to move them into managerial positions. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the best thing.
They don't want to be there necessarily.
Yeah. So I'd like to nominate that as one of our future episodes. Okay. Without going into detail, too much in this episode. But
all right, so let's sum it up, Micah. Like, give me a visual on what the skills tracker looks like.
Verbally?
Yes.
Man, that's the hardest question of this whole podcast so far. So think of a spreadsheet where every row is a staff member or a team member. And then every column is a skill or a platform or a technology that they could be no skilled or beginner, intermediate, and expert. And then we color coded everything so it's very clear. Like, beginner is always the same color, intermediate's always the same color, and expert's always the same color. So when we glance, we just have to find the right person and then go through the columns to line up with what they're good at or what skills they have. And it takes maybe, 10 seconds. Yeah. Nobody's interrupted. But yeah, it's basically like a glorified spreadsheet that automatically gets added to.
Yeah. So it's
with pretty colors.
It's a list in ClickUp with a table view, and it's populated by the form. So nobody's taking the form data that they filled out and then putting it in there manually. It is automatically filled out. When they click submit, it automatically goes into our skills tracker, color-coded everything.
And even better, we automate that with employee onboarding. So when we bring people on, nobody's having to manually send this out. It's all part of our automated employee onboarding process.
And it's a beautiful thing.
I think so.
Thanks, Micah.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Automate Your Agency. We hope you're inspired to take your business to the next level. We have free content and tools for automating your business at our website, workdayninja.com.
And join us next week as we dive into more ways to automate and scale your business.
Bye for now.